Community Against Hate is it's a network of social conscious artists that I started in about 1998. And the reason is because hip hop as a culture has been exploited by the music industry. So if you ever research hip hop as a culture and you go back and you listen to music that came out in the early start of the culture, it sounds a lot different than what you hear on the radio today. The message sounds a lot different. For instance, if you listen to music in the early stages, you hear a lot of social political messages. You hear people talk about things that are. Anybody hear Message in a Bottle? Anybody hear of the Last Poets? The Last Poets are known as the Godfather of hip hop. The Revolution will not be televised. Anybody ever heard of that?
Yes.
Okay. Last Poets, Gil Scott Heron. Last Poets are known as the Godfathers of hip hop. Okay, and when I brought some hip hop pioneers up to Springfield and up to Holyoke to talk with the community and the younger kids, so they could talk about like why hip hop was created. And so what you see is that back in the early days, hip hop was created to like stop the gang violence and really deal with issues rather than reacting to issues. So what you saw when African Bambaataa created Zulu Nation, people stopped, fighting against each other, and then they started dancing and b-boys battling against each other, you know what I'm saying? And people rhyming, talking about issues, political issues. They were calling the local city hall, mayor, city council to task. These are the issues that are going on. What are you going to do about it? Matter of fact, Rodney C., who was part of Funky 4 Plus One More, it was one of the first rap groups to perform on Saturday Night Live. They were the first rap group to have a woman in their group. When Rodney C. and another movement broke off, they did this rhyme, and it was actually broadcasted nationally. It was called Stop the Bombs, and it was during the Vietnam War. And I was like, wow, I've never even heard about that. A lot of people don't tell you that part of hip hop. All people get is that it's negative, it's violent. You know what I mean? So when people see black people rhyme or a black person, they think about hip hop, they think about negativity, but they don't tell you about these companies that invested in rap music, not hip hop culture, didn't invest to support the culture, but to rob it. And so these companies made billions of dollars. While some of the people who are hip hop pioneers today, they really didn't get any money. We did a fundraiser called the Hip Hop Pioneers Medical Health and Dental Care Campaign, because those that are pioneers today, some of them are losing their teeth. Some of them didn't have health care to get kidney transplants, so some of them died. And it's really sad, the real history of hip hop culture and how it's been exploited. So I created Community Against Hate to bring culture back to urban communities so that we can economically make money off our own culture, so we can do things like go to school, if we have medical issues, take care of that. And so what I've actually noticed is that people responding. People want this to happen. Like Aaron, you take Aaron who's a comedian, who's a poet. He could tell you that like since he's joined, it's taken off. It's crazy. We have Poetic Recovery, which is it's a platform where artists can be themselves and not worry about competing against the industry. Instead of rhyming about drugs and all this other crazy stuff, talk about what's really going on in our community, such as why poverty exists. If people want to like rhyme about Walmart and about them being upset that people that work at Walmart aren't really getting full-time jobs, we encourage that. Rhyme about what's really going on. Jobs going overseas and not coming back. Bank of America taking homes through robo-signing. All these real issues that are affecting all of our lives, these are issues people encourage to write about, talk about, so people can hear about it. Because the people, this stuff you're not going to see on the news, really. People, news aren't going to tell you that Apple makes its product in Indonesia and people are not being treated, fairly. And people just like, well, what do we do with this stuff? We just walk along daily and we just don't deal with it. And it's sad because, like, when we look around and we see what's going on, the devastation in our communities, is because we're afraid to face it head on. And until we as a community face these issues head on, we're just going to be stuck in the dark wondering, like, what's going on? Like, what's happening?
This is a tripod.
Is there so many issues going on? For instance, the two drastic issues that just happened, Colorado and the mosque, right? We need to address this in our communities, right? We need to, like, do more things where people coming together as a community, as a diverse community, right? Where we're getting to know each other. You know what I mean? Where we're learning about each other instead of learning about it on the news, which is not about journalism these days. You know what I mean? So that's what we do. We encourage communities to come together, talk to each other, you know, learn about each other. You know, so what if you're a different religion? It's cool. It doesn't matter. That's for you. You know what I mean? My question is that at the end of the day, when the lights go out, you know what I mean? When the power goes out, who are we? When we don't see each other, we can't look at each other's skin color, whatever, right? What do we hear? We hear each other's voices. You know what I mean? And the pictures that we get when we're talking, you know what I mean? That's what we should really, you know, focus on. What is it that you're saying? What is it that you're doing? You know what I mean? And so through Community Against Hate, we raised funds for Betty Agan, whose house burnt down. She was a community activist. We're preparing to do a fundraiser for breast cancer and a cultural center in Springfield, because there really isn't a cultural center in Springfield. So there's a lot of things that we're taking on. There's a lot of stuff that we're